Welcome in to Double Overtime presented by VC Ultimate. I am Jenna. He is Sascha. We are back as the Super Bloom Beach Bowl. There we go. Just happened this past weekend in the Western Ultimate League, and we are getting ready for week 1 of the Premier Ultimate League season. And guess what, Sascha? The league has a commissioner announced today. Really glad that we are recording this on Wednesday evening and not Tuesday evening, as we sometimes do, because we would have missed the news by a day like we always do. Thank you, PUL, for putting this information out the day we recorded. We always appreciate it, right, Sascha?
Oh yeah, for sure. It's it's been, I don't know how many times has happened this year already where we will
at least
record something and then
yeah,
the day after there's some big announcement and we're just like, well, we could have waited. Yeah.
Well, we're recording. We'll be like, we don't know this information. And then the information drops the next day. And we're like, great. Like, had we not heard about the exciting appointment of the PUL's new commissioner, we probably would have come on here being like, the PUL season is about to start and they don't have a commissioner yet. And now we don't have to say that. So thank you, PUL, for announcing that. We're going to get to that in the second half of our show when we do our PUL preview discussion, talking about the new commissioner, Amanda Dallas, and also talk about a few of the different storylines that will be coming up for who's going to be the new champion now that Revolution is out of the league, and some divisional storylines for the East, Midwest, and South divisions. First, we got some Western Ultimate League stuff to talk about. But Sascha, you have a busy weekend ahead of you, let alone all the PULWL stuff. Easterns, the final major weekend of the college regular season. Your boys, South Carolina, in as the qualifiers. How you feeling in the big ol' Easterns field?
It's intimidating. Like this is like probably one of the biggest tournaments South Carolina's ever been to, especially near the end of the season. And we've got a pretty tough schedule. We've got, Carleton, Brown, Oregon, and Michigan for pool play. And as it stands currently, we are the very last team on, we're on the bubble of bid earning for the region, and so we're ranked 17, and right afterwards is Brown at 18. So that they're going to be going hard this weekend to try to secure a bid for their region, and right after that is Ohio State, who is also at Easterns, who's also going to be going hard to try to secure a bid for the region. So there's a lot of pressure on us to try to keep this third bid in the Atlantic Coast region. But I like my guys. I'm confident in them. They're really talented, and I think if they play the way that they know how to play, then it'll be fine.
Gotta love that confident coach speak always before a tournament. Yeah, and it's kind of wild that the college regular season is already wrapping up. I know I was keeping my eye on the Women's Northwest Challenge last weekend. Some rainy conditions early, but cleared up by the end. Colorado taking home the title this time after their walloping at the hands of UNC out at Stanford Invite. So shaping up to be exciting end of the season and exciting last few bids to nationals in the women's division. I was keeping an eye on the Southwest, currently hanging on just barely to 3 bids. UC San Diego right on the line while the Northwest tries to get their evil empire back. They have Victoria and Western Washington. Western Washington is just outside the bid picture right now, like one spot outside, and Victoria is just inside. And I mean, there's not like any real major women's tournaments happening this weekend, but that doesn't mean that second order effects couldn't affect things, because there's not that many rankings points separating folks at the bottom. So best of luck to you this weekend, Sascha, and South Carolina out at Easterns. I'll be keeping my eye on things while we continue following along with the Western Ultimate League results, and again, the opening weekend of the Premier Ultimate League. So, should we break down the Super Bloom Beach Bowl results?
Let's get into it. First game, who was it? Arizona, LA.
Yeah, Arizona, LA. Arizona coming in undefeated. Like, hey, Sidewinders beating Seattle, beating Oregon in Arizona. To be fair, can they win outside of Arizona? No. Somehow,
Apparently not.
so we'll get to their second game, their Sunday game, but somehow they were in situations where they were down 1 with just seconds left in the game twice on the weekend and couldn't manage to pull back the win either time. What is with the Sidewinders team and not being able to win outside of Arizona? And they should get at least one more home game in Arizona, at least, I think. But wow, what in the world?
Yeah, I don't know. Obviously home field advantage is a thing. But I couldn't tell you.
I mean, but hey, right? So the Astra takes the early loss, excuse me, to San Francisco in the opening game in LA, bounces back. They build a 4-1 lead early before holding off Arizona's late pushes throughout the game. And it's some of the same players that we were expecting from LA. Jasmine Childress, 5 assists. Chip Yen, 5 goals. Meredith Bile, 3 blocks, all coming up big for LA. So, you gotta give it to Astra. Nice bounce back win. They have a conference loss and a conference win after this game, and you have to be pretty happy with it so far, I have to say.
Yeah, so far, like coming into this game, they're looking pretty decent, and they have their big names stepping up to take on a heavy load, and they delivered. And I mean, same with Arizona. Like, you see all the same names coming up doing a lot of great things for Arizona. They just, couldn't get over that little hump that they dug themselves into.
It never helps to be down 3 goals early. So, and for the Sidewinders, right? Still not bad. You put yourself in the position late. And at the end of the day, it was really interesting to see in this game. We'll again talk about the game on Sunday between Arizona and San Francisco. But Arizona, with the disc at the end, decides to pull directly out of bounds against LA to try and be like, hey, we're not going to take any time off the clock with the pull, because in the last couple minutes of the quarter, the clock stops when the disc is out of bounds. So great. You give LA the disc, you try and get a block. LA able to hold on possession. It was kind of funny at the end of the game because LA was like, no, we're content not to try and score here. We're good. We have the win. We don't feel like we need to bump up our goal differential. So pretty amusing, but ends up working out for LA against the Sidewinders.
Yeah, and I mean, I really like that the Arizona coaches were like, yeah, this is what we're gonna do at the end of the game here to make sure that we're not wasting time. I love that. I don't think we really saw that last year, at all. Like, I think we kind of mentioned it last week that clock management between coaches and players is getting better every year. And so, yeah, I love to see the strategies to playing the clock.
Yeah, it's definitely great to see the improvement. And also cool, I think, for Arizona. We saw a number of their players step up in the wins in week 1, but even in the losses this weekend, a number of players that are first-time Sidewinders players stepping up. Caroline Connell in particular, along with former Austin Torch teammate Carly Garrett. I think I'm getting the name right there. both coming up big for Arizona against LA, even in the loss.
Yeah, I mean, like we've said before, this Arizona team has a lot of potential, and they've shown that they have that potential, and they've shown that they can win games. Obviously,
just can they do it outside of Arizona?
Just can they do it outside of Arizona? Who knows? Guess we'll find out. So yeah, I guess, moving on to the next game, we've got San Francisco versus San Diego, and San Diego won this game 18-11.
This one was such a wild watch. Such a wild watch, because it was all over the place. It didn't feel like it was that big of a margin in Diego's favor for the most part. And I mean, okay, to be fair, 6-2 San Diego lead after the first quarter, 10-5 San Diego lead at half, 14-10 San Diego lead after 3 quarters. So like, okay, maybe not that close, but like not a 7-goal margin. And okay, so okay. Let's get it out of the way first. San Diego opens up with 3 straight breaks. They're playing this. They're kind of cruising against San Francisco, and then let's talk timeouts, Sascha, because timeouts are a big thing, right? Important. You get 2 of them per half, and in the Western Ultimate League, you can sub your full line basically when you take a timeout, right? So coaches call timeout, and as often happens, as we have seen in the Western Ultimate League so far this season, coaches will call timeouts when their players are in high stall situations, and 2, trying to get a break. Because if your D-line is on the field and you're positioned to get a break, but that defensive line offense is slow moving, you can sub them off and sub on your O-line and try and score. 3 times in this game, Sascha, San Francisco, my hometown team, took a timeout with a chance to break, and 3 times could not break, including twice on the same point in the second quarter. Twice on the same point. Chance to break, timeout, can't convert. Back and forth, back and forth. Timeout, chance to break, can't convert. And then San Diego ends up scoring for the hold. It's like, oh my lord.
Yeah, that's tough. that's tough.
And here's the thing, like, my reaction in the moment is like, oh, it sucks for the coaches of San Francisco, like calling it there and not having to convert, and like, oh, maybe it's on the coaches. I don't think it is. Coaches are trying to call timeouts to put their teams in positions to succeed, and players need to figure out how to convert in those tight windows and those small spaces, because oftentimes, at least from what I've seen, coaches are calling timeouts when their team is 10, 15 yards, if that, outside the end zone, trying to break, trying to get those last yards. And whoever ends up on the field after the timeout, out of the stoppage, can't seem to do it. Like, what is happening here? I don't know. Do you have thoughts? Do you have any answers for me?
The only thoughts I have are, don't call timeouts in the red zone. That's
fair.
That's my only thoughts. I wish I had the time to go and watch every single streamed game available in any division, college, professional, anything, and just see how many turnovers there are after a timeout in the red zone.
It's so many.
Because it's a lot.
It's so many,
it's
right?
A lot.
It's the chronic thing of like, never call a timeout after you get a huck and you have no one around you.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you will turn it over afterwards.
It's written in the stars. Like, you call the timeout here, you're turning it over. But yeah, I don't like it. You're right. It comes to the point where, like, yeah, the coaches made a good call to call a timeout when, stuff is starting to get stagnant with the defense running an offense. And then your job as an offensive player is to score.
It's true.
Like,
pretty simple.
That's it. And if you don't score, then it makes it harder for the defense. That makes sense.
Oh, it does.
I'm a defensive player,
Does
so
make
like
sense.
when the offense doesn't score, it kind of makes me upset.
We are two D-line players here. This has been established before. Yeah, I don't really know what to do about it, right? Don't really know what to do about it other than not calling timeouts in the red zone or trying to just work on better ways of making offense happen after a stop disc. I don't remember if this was in Discord or if it was talked about on Deep Look, one of our sibling multi-world podcasts. But talking about, does it make sense for teams to just pull directly out of bounds? Like, there's one. I had a friend who worked in the analytics department who was like, I don't understand why teams aren't just pulling out of bounds. Clearly, like, offense is harder off of a stopped disc, like without motion. And also, with by pulling straight out of bounds or pulling a roller pull that goes out of bounds, you save your defensive line from having to sprint at the start of every point and get tired out. Which, makes sense. And like, not quite the same thing in terms of like saving the defensive line sprints, but like, interesting to think about. Like, maybe there should be more of an emphasis placed on like movement from a stop disc, which you would think ultimate teams would be, and ultimate players generally would be good at, given that, at least in my experience, the number of times that we practice reps from a specific standard set and setup from a stop disc is a lot. So it feels like people should be better at this, and I don't understand. I guess maybe I need a coach, Sascha, to explain it to me. Like, what is the issue here? Don't understand.
I don't either.
Fair enough.
I don't know. I was just thinking like what all the analytics. I'm like that makes sense. But then you said like we do practice all of our stuff from a standstill at first, and that makes sense. So I don't know what the answer is, like what the most ideal situation would be there.
Yeah. And anyway, it was painful to see. It was not, the be all end all for San Francisco in the loss to, as we expected, looking like the class of the Southwest Conference right now. Like, yes, they took the first game loss to Seattle, and eked out the win over Oregon, but otherwise they've looked pretty freaking good from what I've seen. And to be fair, the Falcons have now played them twice and lost twice. Which, hot take. I don't know how hot of a take this is. It might be kind of hot take. Hot take, here's the thing. San Francisco, and again, we're going to get to the Sunday games in a sec, has so far gone 2-2 with a win over LA, and we're going to talk about this, Arizona, and has 2 losses so far to San Diego. Again, pretty clearly the class of the Southwest, at least on paper, and I think so far this season. Hot take, San Francisco can make the championship weekend and could go undefeated the rest of the season because they don't have to play San Diego anymore versus the other LA and Arizona do. I think it's possible. I think it's possible that San Francisco could earn a spot in championship weekend if they just pick up 2 more wins against LA and Arizona. They have the tiebreakers with both of those teams. The Falcons have looked pretty good, except against San Diego.
It's definitely it's definitely possible. There's no safe team in this league this year.
No, we've seen this.
We've already seen it. Like last year, we're just like, wow, like Tempest can't be touched, or Super Bloom can barely be touched, Yeah. But like this year, no one is safe. Like I feel like everybody has leveled up, and so like it's possible. It's very possible.
Yeah, or as Robin Fennig might say, no one is safe ever. Noise. Anyways, how it plays out. I think, tough loss for San Francisco. And I mean, I think the key stat for me from this game, San Diego goes 11 for 21 on their break chances, over 50% on their break chances. SF goes 4 for 16. That's 25% in comparison. So not great. Messner gets another 3 goals for San Diego. Jonas Schumacher looks pretty good throughout the weekend. Picked up a goal and 4 assists for San Francisco in their Saturday game. So again, I think for me, the takeaway, San Diego clearly a step above at the moment, at least above the Falcons over the past couple of weeks. And the Falcons just couldn't convert on their break chances versus San Diego was like, yes, we will be happy to convert on our break chances. Thank you very much. That will be a theme. We're going to come back to that. But Sascha, shall we move to the Sunday matchups?
Yeah, the Sunday matchups were they happened
similar but different to the Saturday matchups. It feels like.
Yeah, so let's go with the first one: San Francisco versus Arizona. The final score was 11-9. That is extremely low scoring for this type of format.
In fact, the lowest scoring so far of the entire season for the Western Ultimate League.
How windy was it there? Was it super windy? I couldn't really tell on stream.
It seemed like throughout the weekend that there was some wind affecting some of the throws, and having been at that very high school, Mira Mesa in San Diego for Club Nationals a number of the past years, there is wind. That happens. It never really seemed to be like enough to be like severely affecting throws, although sometimes the disc did bob up and down in a way that you were like, oh, there's clearly a fair amount of wind down there. But yeah, just kind of messy in this one, and you can definitely tell that by the fact that Arizona scored a grand total of 0 points in the second and third quarters combined. They score in the first quarter, and then they score in the fourth quarter. And in the third quarter, there was only 1 score to San Francisco. It was 6-4 at halftime, and it was super long back and forth points in the third quarter, only one of which ended in a score, because the other one ended the quarter without a score on a turnover. Yikes. Like, I don't really know what to make of this, but again, Arizona in a hole, tries to dig themselves out of it, is down 1 with the disc, tries to roll the disc out of play and try and get a turnover. This time San Francisco is like, fine, we'll just toss it over the top for the score to make it a 2-goal margin. But like, Sidewinders, are y'all like not waking up on the right side of the bed when you're not in Arizona? When you're sleeping in like hotel rooms or something? Like, what is happening? Although, again, they scored in the first quarter and then nothing. I don't understand.
They were ahead. They were ahead in the first quarter.
They were 4-3 on a great Cynthia Thomas layout catch. What? Yeah, it was like 4-3. I was like, okay, cool. It's gonna be a close game. Arizona has the initial advantage, whatever. And then it was like, oh, San Francisco getting back into this. And oh, now San Francisco has a lead as Arizona can't score. And then the third quarter was like the slugfest of slugfests, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then Arizona was like, oh, it's the fourth quarter. Okay, now it's time for us to make our comeback. It was
We've
wild.
seen this before. We've seen this before this season. Not as drastic, but Oregon has done this
right.
a few times.
San Diego.
Where they go down and then they just kind of like say, oh, we need a score and it's the fourth quarter, so we're just going to do all of our points in the fourth quarter.
I don't know what it is. I couldn't tell you. This is
maybe it was a bad weekend. maybe it just wasn't the weekend.
But like, here's the thing, right?
Weekend.
Even if it was a bad weekend for Arizona, which yes, granted they went 0-2, not a great weekend for Arizona. They still almost won 2 games. They just needed to score a little more and not put themselves in the holes that they did.
I mean, Jenna, that's generally how you win games. You score more than the other team.
But Sasha, I'm a professional commentator, and professional commentators say, you know, well, the key to winning this game is scoring more points than the opposition. I'm John Madden, and this is my analysis. For anyone who's ever played any of the Madden games over the years, you will have heard that type of commentary many a time before. Look,
but I mean, there were some bright spots in this game. Let's make that very clear. There were some bright spots. Megan Maxfield for Arizona had 3 goals. That's good.
That's quite good. Gina Schumacher, 3 assists. That's 7 assists for Gina over 2 games. 7 assists, pretty good over the course of a couple of games. Not too shabby. Especially when one of those games only has an 11-9 margin. And also shout out Rachel Clarkson.
Go for it. Rachel Clarkson, probably the performance of the day, with 5 goals and 1 assist. That's 6 scores for San Francisco's 11.
Yeah,
that's over half of the scores of this team. I mean, comparing this to video games once again, when I'm playing like 2K and my character gets like 50 points in a game, 60 points in a game, it's just like that, you know, doing over half of the points for the team.
Yeah,
it's incredible,
quite incredible. And I love Clarkson's story because it come out of Sacramento, which is not in the San Francisco Bay Area, despite what some people sometimes think, because California is big like that. But Sacramento's got its own thriving ultimate scene, and folks do sometimes commute from Sacramento area, but there's been a new mixed team called Tower out of Sacramento the last year or two. And Clarkson's been a big part of that team, and just very impressive to see him out playing for the Falcons. And often on the field. So, yeah. Shout out Rachel Clarkson. She's doing good work. Previously played, looking back at it, at Texas on Melee back in the day. So, some Texas connections for San Francisco with Rachel Clarkson. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm a big fan of teams, especially in like the big metropolis of the San Francisco Bay Area, a Frisbee hub of pulling from a range of different teams in the area, and Clarkson getting to represent Tower. I think it's great. And obviously she's shown that she deserves to be here with, you know, contributing to over half of San Francisco's goals in their win against Arizona. So, yeah. And hey, again, good on the Falcons. 1-1, not too bad. Only losses in the conference so far to San Diego. And now you don't have to play Super Bloom again. So now you can focus on and they get LA and Arizona both at home in April. I'll be commentating at both those games. So keep an ear out, folks. And then they just have a wild weekend. So again, I like the outlook for San Francisco, but that might be my homer bias coming in. Maybe, perhaps.
Probably, perhaps. Not maybe, probably. All right, moving on to the last game of the weekend. LA versus San Diego.
So can we just frame this, Sascha? Sorry to jump in, but can we frame this with what you messaged me at one point, like during this game? Or like right after this game, you messaged me like I like had to leave. I had to stop watching after the first half. What happened? Because here's the thing, it was close and then it wasn't. Sascha, back to you.
It was close. You know, it was 5-3 San Diego after 1. It's a 2-point margin. You can come back from that easy. Mm-hmm. At halftime, it was 6-9. Nice.
And
And then the finals, then I had to leave. I had to turn it off. And then I went back after the game and looked at the score and saw 22-11. I was like, what? What happened? So Jenna, please tell me what happened here.
I mean, LA looked pretty good early. It was a lot of what we saw against Arizona the day before. High energy, some big blocks. LA got the first score. They got a first point break. Avalon Agawa laying out for the block to a quick score. Like, LA was leading this game very briefly. And then they weren't. Because especially in the fourth quarter, it would just be LA turn, San Diego score and break. LA turn, San Diego score and break. Like, by the end of the game, San Diego, again, right around that 50% break conversion rate. It's something that I think we're seeing, and I'm going to be curious to see how much we continue to see it, especially as we get more stats and info throughout the season. Shout out to WL Stats Hub. When I have a second and when we have a few more games, I will be going in depth into that. But the best teams, as we often see at the club division, also are teams that when you give them a chance, do not give the disc back. They do not give the disc back. The execution on the turn is high. And in the second half, San Diego was like, oh, LA, you're going to give us the disc? Great. Or we're just going to generate blocks and then just take it the other way. And there was like nothing LA could do, seemingly. That's what happened. LA looked good. And then San Diego was like, oh, yeah, we were in second gear. Now we're actually going to take it up a gear. It was wild.
Yeah, I mean, that's something I kind of ranted on to my college kids one time about the offensive efficiency on a turnover by the defensive line.
Yep.
Is that I straight up told them, like, look, there are times where it's time to go. It's time to get that fast break and move the disc. And there are times where you have to stop and slow it down and play the most boring ultimate you have ever played in your life. Mm-hmm. And I compared it. I said, if obviously I'm talking to college men's teams, so I'm like, watch UMass, watch Colorado, watch BYU, watch all these top teams, and their D lines play the most boring offense ever. Because they just value the disc. They just swing it around and then they end up scoring. It's so boring, but it works and they win. And that's what you got to do. The defensive efficiency is how you win games.
Yeah. And I mean, again, on the college women's side, I mean, you can say the same thing about UNC, Colorado, Vermont. Like, the best teams are the ones that when you give them a chance, they will not give you fundamentally. That is how it goes. And in Ultimate, it is a zero-sum game to a large extent when it comes to turnovers. The team with the fewer turnovers will win the game. And if you don't turn it over after the other team turns it over, that's going to start to stack up in your favor. And boy, did it stack up in San Diego's favor in the second half. And then, unsurprising, with 22 goals, you're going to get a lot of contributions from across the roster. So we're not going to name them all. You can check out the WL Stats Hub and the stats from this past weekend once the league releases them. Maybe by the time you'll hear this podcast, because they tend to release them on Thursdays, and at the moment we're recording on Wednesdays. But Julia Salvachon, Kayla Helton, Blair Messner, all great performances across the board. So yeah, again, not surprising for San Diego, and for LA, disappointing. But again, you hung close early, and it's just a matter of maintaining that early momentum so it doesn't balloon from a 3-goal deficit at halftime to an 11-goal deficit by the end of the game. Sascha, any other thoughts? Any other takeaways from the weekend, or any thoughts overall that you would like to share?
Thoughts overall that I would like to share. You know, Jenna, there are times where I go on these little rants about Frisbee and on this podcast, and I think that it's time to do another one.
We're giving them a name, right? Tentative name. We might change this.
Tentative name. Sascha's sermon. This week we'll be talking about why do teams take so long to pick up the disc when they are down points near the end of the game? I have noticed this last year. I've already noticed it this year, is that there will be a minute left. There's a turnover and the defense is about to pick it up, but they sit there and wait for everything to set up instead of picking up the disc and moving it. They're wasting precious time on the clock where they can pick up the disc and start moving it down the field. And so by doing that, they have more time later on in the game when they need it to be able to score more points, be able to get the extra turnovers, get that extra point that you need to push the game into overtime or to push it to be able to win the game. If there's 2 minutes left in this game and you are down by 2 or 3, it doesn't matter where anybody else is on the field. You get your handlers to sprint down there, pick up the disc and start moving it. Because then again, the defensive efficiency is how you're going to win these games. And they're timed games, so you need time to do this. Jenna, thoughts?
I have thoughts. So the first one is, I think one reason might be that most of these players are probably still, to an extent, the clock. And normally, under typical USAU rules, you don't have a clock that you have to worry about. And so you could take the full 10, 20 seconds, whatever the observer ends up counting out, to walk the disc, get things set up, and get things ready, call your play, whatever. I also think there is maybe something to be said about possession rules, and that you can burn time if you're confident about holding on to the disc, burn more time off so that you can ensure that you have the last possession. Not as much when there's like 2 minutes left, unless you're really going to try and possess the disc for 2 whole minutes. But I could see it when there's like 30 seconds left or something. As long as you have the disc, you might as well burn some clock off so there's less time for the other team to get a block, potentially. Those would be my 2 thoughts back.
I agree with that until it's the very end of the game.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
I mean, it's still possession rules in the Western Ultimate League in the 4th quarter.
But if you're down points...
That's fair. You need...
Yeah, that is my whole thing.
Like if you're down points
to make
up, then
then you got to keep it moving. You got to just go. Which also kind of brings me to another tiny thing. I understand that this is a WUL PUL podcast, but you have to admit sometimes when the AUDL gets it right. And the AUDL gets it right by having extra discs around the field. So that when the disc goes way out of bounds, you're not wasting time going and getting that disc and coming all the way back. It's just, it keeps the game going, keeps it flowing, and you're not wasting time. Because that can be another strategy, is if you're up by a few points, you pull that thing way out of bounds, and they have to go way over there to go get that disc.
But at least now, in the last 2 minutes of the quarters, clock stops when pulls are out of bounds in the Western Ultimate League.
That is true.
I still hear you, though. I get it. Okay. With that, we are going to wrap up our WL segment of the show. We're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we are talking PUL preview show, breaking down some of the key storylines, talking about new PUL commissioner, Amanda Dallas. Don't go away. We will be right back. Our friends at VC Ultimate are proud to sponsor Double Overtime. VC proudly puts community over profit, focusing their support on initiatives that help promote inclusivity. As the first ever sponsor to back professional women's and non-binary Ultimate, VC puts its money where its mouth is when it comes to equitable action. VC also approaches product innovation intentionally to make more players feel like the Ultimate space is their own. Did you know that all VC core products are now 100% gender-free? If your team is in the market for uniforms or custom team gear, check out VCUltimate.com. Not only are they working to change the landscape of sport, VC's performance gear is the best on the field. thanks to our sponsors of Double Overtime VC Ultimate. Welcome back to Double Overtime presented by VC Ultimate. We are talking PUL preview. Premier Ultimate League season starting this upcoming weekend with a pair of games. Columbus playing against Raleigh and Portland traveling out to Austin. It's been interesting that those two have matched up now in back-to-back seasons. Portland Rising and Austin Torch, given that they are about as far apart as teams can get when it comes to the Premier Ultimate League, and it would not be the matchup I would expect for an out-of-conference matchup. But we'll talk more about that in our picks, and obviously next week. But first, we got to talk new commissioner. Sascha, the PUL has a new commissioner.
Yeah.
How exciting!
That's super exciting. They announced it today, Wednesday, the 29th of March.
Again, very grateful that they announced it before we recorded instead of after this time.
Yeah, and the new commissioner is Amanda Dallas, who is am I correct in saying the co-founder of
current co-commissioner
of Quadball, formerly known as Quidditch?
Major League Quad Ball. That's right. It's that other silly niche sport that is mixed gender and has inclusive rules and policies in place for trans, non-binary, queer folks. It was something that was fun to see, the crossover between Quad Ball and Ultimate, with Amanda Dallas being selected, hired to be commissioner for the PUL, because it's something where I have been working on and talking about trans inclusion policies and different ways to think about how Ultimate can be more trans inclusive. One of the examples I have looked to is Quad Ball, because they've had a gender maximum rule in place for a while, cleverly titled Title 9 3/4. Which is a gender maximum rule about you can have a maximum of 4 players of any one gender identity on the field at the same time, which feels very similar. It sounds similar to the classic 4-3-3-4 matchup ratios the Ultimate has. So fun to see that connection is happening for real this time in the form of the PUL commissioner. And obviously plenty of experience, notably coming from outside the sport. That's not something we've seen that often. Folks being hired from outside of Ultimate to work in Ultimate. Sascha, your thoughts?
I think it's really cool. Having someone that knows what they're doing, like with a sports league, and doing, like, being a commissioner of already a professional league, of another niche activity that and to see, like, the growth of Quad Ball as well. Quad Ball's fairly popular, and having a commissioner come in from another popular niche sport would be cool. It's great, because then they can use their knowledge to be able to grow this league as well. Something random little fun fact is that our sponsor for this podcast, VC Ultimate, also does uniforms and stuff for Quad Ball teams. If you didn't know that, you can check out their website, and you go to VC Shop, and you can go down to Quad Ball gear, and they have gear for US Quad Ball, and it's pretty cool. So
that is very cool.
Cool little
VC really
connection.
cornering the market on not a sports
100%.
with Ultimate and a bit of disc golf previously, and then also Quad Ball. I think
dodgeball too.
Hey, we appreciate you, VC, for supporting us. We do. I think it's going to be really great. Again, as you said, very experienced, and I actually really like bringing in someone from outside the sport in this instance, because I think a lot of times folks in Ultimate have brought a lot of the same ideas, have talked to a lot of the same people over and over, and there's been obviously a fair amount of innovation. Just see the existence of the Premier Ultimate League and the Western Ultimate League. That this is not to discount that, but having someone come in from outside the sport who, again, has been and actually will continue to be commissioner of Major League Quad Ball, because the seasons don't really overlap, and the PUL commissioner hiring notice said that it was basically a 6-month hiring post for February to July, so presumably should be fine to do both. But I think it's good, and I'm very excited to see that they've hired Amanda Dallas, and we will hopefully have her on the show. We haven't had a chance to figure out reaching out or contacts or when might be good, because again, it was announced earlier today, but we were very excited that is a thing, and again, right before the season starts. So, should we get into storyline, Sascha?
Storyline of the season: who steps up with Revo gone? Who will be the new champion of the PUL this season?
Because the PUL has only had one champion. The undefeated Medellin Revolution Pro has won and been undefeated all of the full seasons that the PUL has existed. And now they're off to start their own Latin America-centric league. And so there's going to be someone new. And I think for me, this is going to also go out in our PUL season primer that should hopefully drop by the end of the week. Tension, namely all of the teams in the East Division, as well as Raleigh and Minnesota out of the South and Midwest divisions, respectively. We'll go more into depth about the different teams, but I do think it is notable that there are, I think, 6-ish credible contenders for the new title. You have Shadow, DC Shadow, last year's #1 seeds, bringing back a good chunk of their roster, even if they've lost some talent to Philly, but Claire Trope, Caroline Normal are both back. You have New York Gridlock, who have picked up Mosquera and Ina Cartagena, might have the best roster on paper. You have newcomers Philly. What to expect from them, we don't know, but it looks like a strong roster. You have Portland Rising, had tied for the second best record in the league last year and only missed out on making championship weekend because of the algorithm. What will we see from them? And then we have favorites out of the South, Raleigh Radiance, and we have potential favorites out of the Midwest, Minnesota Strike. Sascha, what are your thoughts ahead of the season?
It's all about that East Division, to be honest. I think that's going to be the most compelling division to watch this season. And I don't know, like it's a lot of teams have like lost a lot of players, but a lot of teams have also added a lot of players. And it's hard to really just like say this is the team that is going to win the whole thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a ton of turnover for some teams. I mean, we'll talk about them a bit when we get to talking about the South Division, but like Atlanta Soul, by one count, has only like 6 or 7 returners from last year, which is wild. Like, we thought the Falcons and the WUL didn't have very many returners with 11, but Atlanta might just have them beat by a fair margin too. So it'll be interesting to see across the board. Hopefully we're going to be getting live streams for the most part. Hopefully things will go according to plan, better than it did at times last season. TBD on standings page, TBD on stats. Hopefully commission will get things in order once she gets into position and gets settled. So hopefully we'll see good things. And I think, right, you have 6 credible contenders, of which four of them are in the same division, and then you have arguable favorites out of the two other divisions. Sets up for a very exciting championship weekend, at least on paper. We'll do champ weekend picks later, Sascha. But how about we talk about the East Division? Oh my goodness. What is this division? We already named all the teams. Sascha, who is your favorite and why to come out of the East?
I think my favorite's got to be New York to come out of the East as the top of the East Division. Okay. And I know, like, in our little staff conversation about it, Charlie, our dear boss, Charlie Eisenhood, stated that last season they had a great roster, but they just kind of choked, I guess you could say. They didn't play
super well.
Yeah, they didn't perform. But I think that, you know, they have 17 returning players. And let me do the math real quick. 7, 9, and 8. That is a lot. Sorry, I'm bad at this. 15, 24. Yeah, 24 of their players come from 3 different club teams.
A lot of chemistry built in.
That's a lot of chemistry built in. And then obviously you have, you know, 2 of the top women matching players in the world being added to the team as well. It's hard for me to bet against them with that.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't want to pick the same as you, but it feels like that's probably the choice. I think next up for me is probably DC. I mean, when you have 2 World Games players and Claire Trupp and Carolyn Normile leading the way, I mean, that's pretty good recipe for success.
Pretty good.
And yeah, sure, Portland did have a 5-1 record last year, but let's all be real about it. It was against a pretty soft schedule, and it's not going to be any easier for Rising this year. And we just I don't think we have enough information right now to say that Philly is going to be there. So it may be a situation where we both can be right. New York and DC both make it out to championship weekend as the top team in the East and the best second place team in the league. And, you know, Philly and Portland just come up short. But hey, again, we don't know what to make of this Philly Surge team. I'm very excited to what we get from Philly. One thing that I'm not sure is how much is public knowledge, but I have heard that they will be playing a scrimmage. Feels a little bit too light of a word. They will be playing against the UNC Pleiades this weekend in sort of like a Sunday showcase game. So that should be our first look at Surge, getting to play against the best that the college division has to offer. So it'll be interesting to see what Surge has to offer before they get their season fully underway in the weeks to come. So I think you're right. Like, the East is the place to start when talking about championship weekend and the best teams in the league. Paper. So we'll see. Because shifting to the Midwest Division, what to make of this Midwest Division? Because last year, Indy Red made championship weekend, but at one point it was maybe the Milwaukee Monarchs, but also now Minnesota Strike have 2 of the best players, I think, on the planet. And certainly 2 top 10 players on the planet, it feels like, in Sarah Meckstroth and Robin Fennig. And boy, if you're Minnesota, you're very happy to have Robin hucking to Mex, and Mex playing defense and getting the turn, and then Robin hucking to Mex over and over and over again. Feels like a recipe for success. And also there's Columbus Pride. Sorry, Columbus, but you didn't do great last year, and good luck.
Good luck.
What do you make of this Midwest Division? Is Minnesota the actual favorite here? Is it just, should it be that clear with Robin and Mex?
I think it is. Not only just because they added two of the best players on the planet, but because they have a large amount of returners as well. Like they're returning 17 of their players. There's a lot of hype around the team as well, like in their community. Like their entire community has their backs. And that's always a great recipe for success for any professional team. And yeah, they look great. I don't know what else I can say other than like we gotta watch them. I think that, you know, we have Minnesota at the top of this division, and then Indy. I think Indy will give them a good game, but I think Minnesota will come out on top. But yeah, Indy is going to be in this division. Indy is going to be their closest game for sure.
I think that sounds right. I think it also helps for Minnesota that per Ryan Kendall's strength of schedule analysis, Minnesota has the easiest strength of schedule in the entire league, so that will help. And you know, we'll be excited to watch them. Minnesota doesn't play to week 4. We get through we have to get to like over a third of the season in to get to see Minnesota, and then they play Atlanta and Nashville on the road. So, you know, we'll see. Do Robin and Max travel for those games, and what does Strike look like against Atlanta and Nashville? We're gonna see how good Atlanta and Nashville are this year, and we'll see how Minnesota stacks up against them when we finally get to see Strike in action come week 4 in PUL action. Speaking of Atlanta and Nashville, should we shift to the South Division?
Yeah. So South Division, we've got Atlanta, Nashville, Raleigh, and Austin. And personally, Atlanta obviously in a rebuild year, like we kind of mentioned.
I mean, they won no games last year, but also they only bring back 7 of their players from last year and add Aaron Schrader. So like that helps.
That does help. And you know, they adding 19 new players. So maybe they just need newer fresher faces for the team to be able to, you know, actually go out and win some games. Bringing in players from Central America, from you know, down south, from Mexico, and so that's pretty cool. And then, so personally, I think, you know, Atlanta is going to be probably the bottom of this division again. Nashville right after that, and then we have Raleigh and Austin. And here's my thing. Raleigh as well is only returning 18 or 11 of their players from last year. They have 18 brand new players, including Sheena Titcomb, coming in for this season.
Q's a pretty good addition.
Yeah. I mean, they lost Ella Yunks, they lost Mex to Strike, they lost I want to say it's Rebecca Peasley. I apologize if that's not correct, to Strike. Kayla Strip, Elizabeth Parker, Jenny Way, Sue, and Tyler Smith, all no longer with this team right now, playing for this team. And so it's good. So from what I've heard, it's a lot of the youth from the Raleigh area, which is great. Like, obviously, we all know how Ultimate is in North Carolina and how competitive it is and how good it is.
Very good.
But I also, I don't know. It's hard. It's difficult for me as a non-triangle person to say that this team is going to come out on top in this division, when we have on the opposite side, Austin Torch is returning the most out of any team. They're returning 19 of their players.
Wow.
And they did pretty well last year, if I remember correctly. And so it's hard for me to say that like Raleigh is going to be the top of this division when Austin has played with all like over 2/3 of their team, actually over 2/3 of their team already one season, and they're just kind of building off of last season. So personally, I don't know. It like in my head.
We'll get to picks.
Yeah,
we'll get to picks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear that, and I also think it is notable that right, no Ella Youngs, but a fair number of the current UNC Pleiades players are still playing for Radiance, and the seasons are crossing over to an extent. And with UNC playing the showcase, and they're traveling also up north to play some unsanctioned games against Tufts and Vermont and Yale this weekend. Raleigh's playing. They host Columbus. So Radiance will be without at least a decent chunk of their roster against Columbus. So that might be our first impression. Again, TBD on where Columbus is at this state at this early point in the season. But it'll be interesting to see, right? Without a bunch of those UNC players, what does this, and with those other losses, what does this Radiance team look like? And yeah, it helps a lot to have continuity and chemistry, especially, right? This is this feels strange to say. This is the first time the PUL has had actual full back-to-back regular seasons, right? Because 2019 happened, and then non-2020, and then not a full season in 2021, and a full season in 2022, and a full season in 2023. So bringing back a lot of your players for a regular season, to your point, I think could do wonders for this Austin team. And does it have the same time Raleigh does, even if the depth is maybe more there for Austin. We'll see. This year, all the teams in the divisions all play each other. Thank freaking goodness. Oh my god. So we actually get all the division matchups. I'm so excited. And Raleigh, Austin, both playing week 1. So unlike Minnesota, when we have to wait till week 4, we get to see both Raleigh and Austin in action, both at home, week 1. So we shall see. Anything else, Sascha, in terms of season preview thoughts for the Premier Ultimate League? Folks, we will be going more into depth on PUL things as we get games and, again, stats, hopefully, and info, hopefully, down the line. So do not worry, more PUL content is on the way.
Let's get into picks.
Let's do it. Should we do game picks and then do PUL championship weekends, or should we do? Let's do. We got PUL picks, and then do next week game picks.
PUL championship week.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. PUL championship weekend picks.
You got East Division. Go.
East Division. Let's go top of the division, and then we'll pick the second place team. Top of the East Division. I said earlier, let's go with DC Shadow. Sascha.
DC. My top of the division is New York.
Okay. Midwest. Let's just go in order of what we did earlier.
Midwest, top of the division, Strike.
Same. Sorry, folks. Other teams. South Division. Is it my turn to go first?
Yeah.
Raleigh. I think it's going to be close, but I'm going to give it to Raleigh.
All right. I'm going to do Austin.
Okay. Best second place team. I will be shocked if you don't go for an East Division team, because just by strength of schedule, I would be shocked if the algorithm doesn't favor the East Division teams.
Oh, for sure. My East Division team is going to be gonna go bold here and go Philly.
I was honestly kind of hoping you would do that. I think I'm going to take New York. I think the talent's too much to ignore there. I wouldn't be surprised if it is two of those three that make it through, but that does mean that one of them misses. Portland, I also do think you have a chance, but such a stacked division. Great. So we have, two different picks?
Right.
I have DC and New York and Raleigh and Minnesota, and you have New York, Minnesota, Austin, and Philly.
Correct. All right. Who do you think is winning out of your 4?
The first-time titleists, first-time champions out of this group. Give me New York.
New York. Oh man, I was going New York too. That's okay. We can take the same thing. I'm doing New York.
It's preseason. It's on paper. They have Mosquera and they have Cartagena. Come on.
They also have Jenny De Jesus.
Yeah, the number of Exist players they have after Exist made that semis run last year, falling just right to mixtape.
I forgot to mention this earlier. Real quick. 9 Exist players.
Yeah.
That went all the way to semis.
Yeah.
8 Bent players who did Bent.
They didn't make nationals.
They didn't make nationals, but they're still a very good team.
Mm-hmm.
7 Brute Squad players that went all the way to semis as well, and then 2 Revo players.
Mm-hmm. Who won Worlds?
Come on. Ain't no way.
The other 11 teams in the league, feel free to yell at us for not picking your team to win the championship. Double OT Pod on Twitter or doubleovertime@ultiworld.com is our email address. Let us know why your team should win the title if you are not a New York Gridlock fan. Yeah, maybe a little chalky, but that's okay. Let's do picks for this upcoming weekend. Got a pair of games in each league. Sascha, let's start with the PUL. Let's keep it going, and then we'll wrap with the WL.
All right. Columbus at Raleigh. I think we're both going. You were both in agreement here.
Yeah.
In Raleigh.
Okay.
All right. And then Portland at Austin.
I mean, I feel like I know what you're going to take because you picked them to championship weekend.
Yeah, I'm picking Austin.
Okay. I'll pick Portland. I will give Rising some love after not including them that much in the conversation to make championship weekend out of the deep East Division. Great. One pick the same, one pick different this time around. Oh, picks review quick from last week as we move into the WL. Picks for this upcoming weekend. Picks from Super Bloom Beach Bowl. Sasha's making a face at me. You can't see it, but that's okay. I have now taken a lead, finally. Sasha, you and I both picked correctly that would win their game initially against San Francisco. And then we both picked Arizona to win against LA, and we were both wrong. But then I got the Sunday double, picking San Diego to beat LA and San Francisco to beat Arizona. Sasha, you are now down. I'm up 7-5, or 7 wins and 5 losses, and you are 5 wins and 7 losses. Words. So I have a lead in picks. Good luck. Hey, I mean, I was only ahead in picks most of last season, so maybe it'll change. West Ultimate League picks this upcoming weekend: Colorado doubleheader in the PNW. Colorado playing Oregon and Seattle. What are your picks in the doubleheader?
I'm just gonna go both of them real quick. I'm gonna go Seattle is going to beat the Colorado people. And then I'm going Colorado will beat the Oregon people.
Alpenglow to get their first win in franchise history. I will pick the PNW double Seattle and Oregon.
The double
Oregon to
win.
get their first win, and Colorado will have to wait another week. If Oregon goes 0-4 to start their season, if you're Onyx, so I'm gonna say it won't happen.
You're picking Colorado to go 0-3 to start their season, though.
No, they've only played one game.
I know, but you picked
Seattle
Seattle and
0-3
Oregon
to
over
start their
them.
season. Yeah. Okay. Well, that's because it's Seattle and Oregon on the road. So don't make that face at me. That's fine. That's fine. Alpenglow, I believe in you. Every other team who I don't pick, I still believe in you. We do, really. All right. I think that about does us, Sasha. Except
highlight of the week.
Highlight of the week.
Highlight of the week. Our highlight of the week is none other than Arizona Sidewinder's defensive juggernaut, Cynthia Thomas, who got a layout catch against San Francisco to make the game 4-3. It was a great catch. Disc was really low to the ground, and she dug it out, got it. Great stuff.
Incredible grab by Thomas. We'll make sure that you at least get the clip or whether in the description for those on YouTube, or you can go find it in the SF Arizona game at the end of the first quarter. I'll
post it on Twitter too.
Yeah, check it out. There'll be different ways to find it. Great catch by Thomas. Unfortunately, that was Arizona's last goal in that game until the fourth quarter. But hey, it doesn't take away from Cynthia Thomas's incredible grab for the highlight of the week.
Doop doop.
That'll do us. It's getting late. Even on the West Coast, it's getting late for Sasha on the East Coast. That'll do it for this episode of Double Overtime presented by VC Ultimate. No sub bonus segment this week, folks, but we will get subscribers some more content in the coming weeks. We got to do PUL tier list. It's coming. It's going to happen. So that'll be all from us. Enjoy the first weekend of PUL action. And Sasha, best of luck at Easterns. We wish you all the best. Until next time, I've been Jenna Weiner. He's been Sascha Vogel.
Bye.